Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to have you here. Come on in. The weather's good.
It is. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, go on in. Hi.
Kick it off at 10 o'clock sharp, sir.
Yep. As soon as these folks find a seat, we'll go. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Where are you guys from?
Iowa.
All right.
Yeah.
Please join me in welcoming Vice Admiral Walter E. Ted Carter, Jr., the 62nd Superintendent of the United States Naval Academy. Admiral Carter is a native of Burrillville, Rhode Island. He graduated from the Naval Academy in 1981 and was designated as a Naval Flight Officer in 1982. Admiral Carter's career as an aviator includes extensive time at sea, deploying around the globe in the F-4 Phantom, F-14 Tomcat, and F-18 Hornet. He commanded the VF-14 Top Hatters, USS Camden, USS Carl Vinson, and the Enterprise Carrier Strike Group. Prior to Annapolis, he served as the 54th President of the U.S. Naval War College. Admiral Carter has flown 125 combat missions in support of joint operations in Bosnia, Kosovo, Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan. He has accumulated 6,150 flight hours and safely completed 2,016 carrier-arrested landings, the record among all active and retired U.S. Naval Aviation designators. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vice Admiral Carter.
Welcome back to Annapolis. Doesn't it feel great? This is one happy crowd. So that was my speechwriter, Lieutenant Commander Ben Stein. He's an F-18 pilot, and he's one of the few pilots in the Navy that don't actually have a carrier-arrested landing wing. I just wanted you to know that. This is an amazingly exciting weekend. And you're halfway there. I mean, in your journey for your sons and daughters to get to graduation, you are halfway there. I'm going to spend about 30 minutes giving you a little quick trip down memory lane. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's happening here at the Naval Academy. I'm going to give you a little bit of my vision for the future of the Naval Academy that will extend to your sons and daughters' graduation a little bit beyond. And I want to talk a little bit about the future. Because as much as I know you're going to have a great weekend here, we got great weather today, tomorrow. The football game's going to be an amazingly exciting event tomorrow. I want you to start thinking about the after graduation. Because as much as your sons and daughters are talking to you about the challenges of being a plebe, a youngster, and now a second-class midshipman with a commitment to serve in the Navy and the Marine Corps, they're going to keep coming back to you for advice. And whether you've served wearing the cloth of the nation sometime in your life, still serving, or whether you've never had anything to do with the military until your son or daughter came here, the investment that you have in them is going to carry on. And what will be the most important part of their journey, it's what they're going to do after commissioning. So a lot of my discussion with you is going to start to focus a little bit more on that, because they're going to ask for your advice, not on what to select at service assignment, but how long to stay in and what's their role, how long will they continue to serve, and you will be a key factor in all of those decisions. So just a couple of summers ago, a lot of teary eyes, saying goodbye to your sons and daughters on induction day. And this year, as they came back to reform, we wanted to remind them that just like all those PEP sessions that they went through, those PE programs, we did it again. And this is them actually joined up at 6 a.m. a couple of days before they went to their first class that committed them for 7 more years in uniform. They were all out there running 4 miles. And the commandant and I actually went out there with them. Trust me, they weren't all that happy about doing this. But once they did it, it was really amazing. We heard all the same cheers that they were doing on plebe summer. And I will tell you, I saw it actually reunite the class again. It was really pretty cool. Plebes no more. Do you remember that? Every once in a while somebody will ask me, why do you still do that? There's always some risk of, somebody potentially falling down from a high level. This is still one of the most iconic things that we do here, and it speaks so much to the teamwork of what is accumulated over the plebe year to get up there and put that cover up there. I still think it's one of the most exciting, fun things we do, and I know a lot of you were here for that. And just a couple weeks ago, 2 for 7. So 2 years as a plebe and as a youngster, and they show up, and we make a big deal out of this now. And this is their last chance to say, you know what? I still believe in something bigger than myself. We have a big dinner, and that's what this is depicting here. Every one of your sons and daughters signs the honor scroll. And at this dinner, Vice Admiral Noah Bryan, a retired 3-star admiral, he gave up and gave an incredibly wonderful speech, centered a lot around the patriotism that has been in our country, much of which influenced your sons and daughters to come here to the Naval Academy. He was in the Pentagon during 9/11 and talked a lot about that. And during this event, they get up, every one of them, in King Hall, and they take the oath all over again. It's emotional. And your sons and daughters get it. They know what the importance of this is. And just as we are seeing in the trend lines, fewer and fewer midshipmen coming out of their sophomore year to their junior year say, you know what, I got my 2 years and I'm out of here. We only had less than 2 handfuls that said between the end of last year and this event that left the class. So again, the attrition at the Naval Academy continues to go down and down, and we're going to see maybe one of the largest graduation rates in the history of the Naval Academy come out of your sons and daughters' classes. I'm not going to predict what it's going to be, but I'm telling you, it's flirting with close to less than 10% of the entire class from induction day. And that's a visual right there. I put this up here to remind everybody about what we do here. Now this is for word on a brass placard in the rotunda in Bancroft Hall. Every midshipman sees it on their way down to meals. And this mission statement has been in existence without much change since 1947. Now you all know this October 10th we will be 170 years old as an institution. And as this institution ages and as we believe in the history of what we produce here, I'll just point out the 2 elements of this mission statement. The prepare midshipmen morally and mentally and physically to imbue them with the highest sense of duty, honor, and loyalty. That speaks to what they're doing here in their 4 years. The back part of this statement, talking about future development and mind and character to serve at the highest levels of responsibilities in command, citizenship, and government, that's what separates this institution from everywhere else. Because we're not just talking about the future leaders of the Navy and the Marine Corps, we're talking about the future leaders of our nation. And we believe we have a mandate to take your sons and daughters who you have entrusted to us to invest in them so that they will lead our nation. That's the future of the class of 2017. This is our new Commandant of Midshipmen, Colonel Steve Lazewski. I know you'll have a chance to see him. There's so much happening in the yard today. We couldn't manage it so that we could be in the same place at the same time. So while I'm addressing you, he's currently addressing the class of 1980 here for their 35th reunion, and they've got about the same size crowd as you have over in Mitchell. The significance of having Colonel Lazewski's picture up here, he's a 1990 graduate. He was a varsity crew rower, and he has served in artillery units for the Marine Corps. Since then, a combat veteran. He is the first Marine Corps officer to be selected to come in and be the Commandant of Midshipmen in 170 years. Colonel John Allen, class of 76, did serve as the Commandant. He fleeted up from the Deputy Commandant job. So this was significant. And I will tell you, for having a Marine here as pretty much the commander of the brigade has fallen in love with what he is and what he represents. I would tell you my biggest challenge now is convince 75% of the class to make sure that they go Navy. But this is a wonderful selection, and it's a tough act to follow behind now Rear Admiral Bill Byrne. But Steve Lazuski is the right guy for the job, and I'm really, really pleased to have him on board. I got to teach him to smile a little bit more. But I know when you get to meet him, you're going to be very impressed. He's the real deal. I want to talk a little bit about my priorities. Now, when I came here a little over a year ago, I realized that I only get 3 or 4 years here as your superintendent. And, nothing just keeps running on autopilot. You've got to have a plan. And it isn't necessarily that you have to come in and fix something that might be broken, but you better pick the priorities of what you think is important. So these 3 elements that I selected, all of which were in relatively good shape when I showed up, I decided that these are the things that we need to focus our resources on, look at what we can do to improve, kind of go on what I would call an upward trajectory, and make sure that I leave it in better shape than when I took it over, and that it can continue on an upward trajectory based on what we put into it. So as I go back to the mission statement, there is nothing that's more important for the future of our nation than instilling character development in our young men and women. This is a leadership school, and we believe that we produce leaders of character and consequence. But it's got to be more than a banner. It's got to be more than words. You've got to put it into action. So we're doing that. I spent the entire first year trying to make sure that I understood the complexities of everything we do, from sports to summer cruises to what we teach in the classroom to what we do with the Stockdale Leadership and Ethics Center to what we're doing with the honor concept. And we did a full review of the honor concept, probably the most significant honor concept review in over 20 years. I have findings. We're now giving those back to the brigade because they still have to own that concept. And I will tell you what we're going to make it do, which I think it's lost its way a little bit, even with this tail end of the millennial generation. The honor concept has to inspire, it has to educate, it has to shape their thinking and eventually their behavior to do the right thing when nobody's looking and when everybody's looking. And it has to be something that the brigade owns. So we're about to turn that back to the brigade with a couple of tweaks, and I think it'll make the brigade that much better. And then we're taking a look at the right balance between in-classroom leadership curriculum and the experiential, which means what they actually do. So there will be some changes to this. We have to do it in kind of a cost-neutral way, so this doesn't cost more money. And I'm very optimistic that by the end of the year, we will have a slightly different look at curriculum and what the activities that your sons and daughters will be doing as seniors next year. A lot of you have heard a lot about the cyber discussion here. We did get $120 million of appropriated money from Congress last year, so that is in the budget. And as you see across the street, there's a big hole where we're doing a project over there. That's a parking lot that we're building out there. It's going to be a big double-decker parking lot. I have to do that first because that space where that cyber building is going to go between Rickover and Nimitz is going to take up we're going to take away some parking there. We're going to put a shovel in the ground sometime later next year to start putting that building up. It'll take us about 2.5 years to finish, so by the end of 2018, we will have this 5-story, 206,000 square foot cyber building. Probably be the last significant academic building built on this 338 tiny campus, 338 acres, tiny campus. That's probably the last academic building we'll put up here. So your sons and daughters will never go to class there, but it will have an impact on them because the cyber major is well underway. This year's seniors, 2016, are the first to graduate with this as a discipline, as an opportunity, as a major. And your sons and daughters are one of the largest population that took that on as a major. Almost 60 in the class of 17 took this as an academic major. And they have to take 2 mandatory courses in cyber. We're the only institution in the country that has that. We've done a lot of great things this year. I talk about this cyber program all over the country, and I told the staff here, I said, I can't get up and say we're going to lead in cyber unless I can have some victories in cyber events. So for 15 years, the National Security Agency has sponsored this thing called a cyber defense exercise. This is where the best hackers that we have in our nation actually infiltrate all the service academies networks and specially designed teams of midshipmen and cadets up at West Point, Air Force Academy, Coast Guard, the Canadians. They have to defend their networks, spot the intrusions, and then correct them. We hadn't won this thing since 2010. In fact, the year previous, we got beat by the Coast Guard Academy. So obviously, when I showed up here, I said, this cannot happen again. So we put some effort into this. I got them specialized laptops. I gave them their own network so they could learn how to hack themselves. Kind of hard to do off a government network. And I gave them sports exemptions, which is a big deal here. And guess what? In 1 year, we went from last to first. We won this thing last year. The president was so impressed by what this thing represented, especially in this year where pretty much every major corporation has been hacked by somebody. This picture down the lower right is the cyber defense team with Paul Tortor, captain, myself, with the president receiving the Don't Give Up the Ship flag. He spent 10 minutes with our midshipmen in a private conversation, shook every one of their hands, including plebes. Can you imagine the I mean, you show up to the Naval Academy, you get on this defense team, and you're in there in the White House shaking the hands with the president. It was pretty cool. The other picture down there is me signing a cooperative research and development agreement with the president of UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. That gentleman's name is Freeman Rabowski. He is also one of the national leaders, and they're less than 20 miles away from us. So we are now entered into some projects with them in cell phone technologies and some other security cyber efforts. So there's many other partnerships. I just highlight that as just some of them. Lots of movement in this, but all moving in the right direction. And I intend to win this cyber defense exercise just as we beat Army every year for the last 13 years. The international engagement piece is also very important. Last year we sent 450 midshipmen to 60 different nations for various events, to include 83 midshipmen who went to 40 different countries for a semester study abroad. This is so crucial for the growth of our midshipmen. Your sons and daughters are so smart. They validated so many classes. There's a huge group of them that finish our 140 credit hour curriculum here in less than 3.5 years. And I can't graduate them early. So I look for opportunities to let them go have this incredible opportunity to go study in Turkey, in Chile, in China. I had 10 midshipmen there over the summer who were going to be there for a 6-month study program there, and they signed a contract to not speak English for 6 months. Think of that. Think of that type of impact on what they will do when they come back here and the growth that they have. It's incredible. This costs some money, and it's worth every penny. So we're going to continue to do that. This picture down here is some of our midshipmen down at the South Pole. And this other photo over here is me signing a contract with the head of their Naval Academy in Marin, Spain, where we also send midshipmen to places like Madrid and Marin, where their Naval Academy is. So this is an important program here. I believe strongly in this, not just because of the academic prowess that it brings, but because of the partnering with these coalition nations that will do us well going into the future. My operational time at sea has taught me that I've never gone through a significant choke point like the Strait of Hormuz without an international vessel in my formation. And these young midshipmen start to build those partnerships at this 19, 20, and 21-year-old level. It's very important. So we're going to continue to stay focused on that. And of course, as our mission statement says, we develop midshipmen morally, mentally, and physically. I will tell you my number one surprise coming here is the sense of volunteerism in the Brigade of Midshipmen. 51,000 volunteer hours out of the brigade last year. Now, I have this picture up there of them doing the big dig here, shoveling out Annapolis, which they did twice last year. But that's the fun stuff. And by the way, the city of Annapolis loves your sons and daughters for doing this. Can you imagine when you get a 6-inch snowstorm here? I mean, it cripples the city. And when people come out of the house and they find their car, which is parked on a cobblestone street, has not only had the street shoveled, the sidewalk shoveled, but their car cleaned off. Then they go to T-Court and have a snowball fight. But they do so much. Mids for Kids, Bone Marrow Drive last year, food drives, clothing drives. 350 midshipmen last year participated in managing the largest Special Olympics event on the Eastern Seaboard. And they're in it. And you know, you already know we give them more to do in the course of a day than they have the hours to do it. And yet those who participate through our Midshipman Action Group, the average number of volunteer hours for those that participate is over 90 hours of midshipman. Rather amazing. The academic mission here continues to be very strong. As you know, we've developed some newer majors over the last couple of years. I've already mentioned cyber. We also have a nuclear engineering major that has recently been added. Economics has morphed into now a quantitative economics discipline. Our aerospace major has a rotary wing discipline with an actual rotary wing wind tunnel, one of the only disciplines that's offered in the country. And as you look at, this is college ranking seasons right now, so you can go on the internet or open up any newspaper today and see somebody's version of college rankings. You can pick any of them. We are coming out higher and higher every year. Last week, U.S. News and World Report came out with their rankings, and theirs is a little bit different than everybody, and it's a little bit more objective than subjective, so we tend to buy into that one a little bit more. We, for the first time ever, broke into the top 10 against all national public and private liberal arts programs in the country. Yeah. Now, I know a lot of you know that we focus very much on the science, technology, engineering, math. Our majors of the 25 are proportionally set up so that about 65% of every class will leave here with a technical discipline. So when I say liberal arts, I don't want you to think that we're just measuring ourselves against those who are English, history, political science, or economics majors. Any college that is only a college that confers bachelor degrees gets put in that category. So that's a pretty remarkable stat. USA Today has not come out with the rankings, but I'm going to give you an early headline. Amongst the many different rankings, one of them is schools that focus on the physical sciences. So here at the Naval Academy, we have a physics major, a chemistry major, an oceanography major, which is what I was, and that includes meteorology, geology, all things that are part of the physical sciences. We were ranked number 2 in the nation, only behind Cal Poly. So we continue to do, yep. We continue to do amazing work, and the Naval Academy's history has produced 48 Rhodes Scholars. I am very hopeful to see another Rhodes Scholar come out of the class of 2017. I'm very optimistic. On the sports side, what can you say? We had the best record we've ever had in over now pushing 17 years in defeating Army last year. We were 23-9 across all sports that we competed against Army, to include beating them in basketball, men's basketball, 3 times in 1 year. We beat their men's lacrosse team for the first time in 6 years. Our women's tennis team beat them for the first time ever. Women's swimming, 26 years in a row. 26. Men swimming, 25 years. I'm almost starting to feel sorry for those guys. When I addressed the brigade after reform, I kind of told them, I said, you do not want to be the first class to say, I lost to Army. And I mean, we have classes now that have never experienced a loss to Army in football, 11 of them. So our new mantra here is not on my watch. But we really did enjoy a great year last year. You know, we have 33 Division I sports programs here. And you may or may not know this. I have to admit, I did not know this until I came here. Do you know we're number 3 in the nation for Division I sports participation? Number 3. So that's behind Ohio State with 39 programs and Stanford with 35. So let me put that into context for you, because those are numbers. The brigade size, 4,400, right? Ohio State, 53,500. Our midshipmen, 1 in 3 of them are competing at the Division I level. The women, which today populate the brigade with over 1,100, 25% of the brigade now are female. 42% of them are competing at the Division I level. And we have a 65% or better win percentage across all of our sports. Most of our Olympic sports compete in the Patriot League. And we have won the Patriot League President's Trophy now 3 out of the last 4 years, to include this last year. It's unbelievable the talent and the exceptional athleticism that we have in the brigade. And why am I spending so much time on that? I played ice hockey when I was here. And I talked about Colonel Steve Lazewski. I honestly believe that good athleticism and the understanding of team sports and the concept of learning and knowing how to win serves us well as we go into the future of our military business. Not just in how to win in combat, but also to how to sustain the peace. So this is a critical part of our mission. We invest a lot in making sure that we get this right. We have exceptionally good coaches, and we keep expanding our brand. So I know a lot of you are going to the football game tomorrow, right? You're going to see history tomorrow. You're going to see history. For the first time ever in over 135 years, you're going to see a football game with Navy uniforms on with a big A on it, which stands for the American Athletic Conference. It used to be called the Big East. And we're going to play our first conference football game ever tomorrow against East Carolina University. This is a big deal. And as the Big 5 conferences are taking over NCAA sports and football, those who do not join the right conference will be left behind. So a lot of smart people before I got here thought this through, and we have joined the right conference for us. Our athletes meet every academic standard. In fact, they have a higher graduation rate than all the rest of the brigade. I'm very proud of us getting the right athletes, whether it be for sailing, whether it be for cross country, lacrosse, or the big blue Navy football team. And we're good this year, but we're not going to have any easy games. I'll tell you, every game we're going to play this year is going to be tough, including tomorrow. So it'll be a great game. It'll be a lot of fun, and I'm really excited about it. All right, let's talk a little bit about the future. You know, a lot of people can read in the paper about what's happening in the Department of Defense. Less than 0.5% of the American public now wears a uniform on active duty. The Army is shrinking down to maybe as low as 440,000 soldiers, lowest it's ever been since World War II. We have 273 ships in the Navy. You'll hear people say, well, that's the fewest number of ships we've had since World War II. But here's the truth. The Navy's getting bigger. Just a couple years ago, we were a force of about 323,000 sailors and officers. For 2016, we'll be at 329,000, to include 52,000 officers and about 31,000 chief petty officers. Your sons and daughters who go into the Navy in 2017 will represent a cross-section of about 3,000 new ensigns. So the Naval Academy produces about 1/3 of those newly commissioned ensigns that go into the Navy. For the Marine Corps, 25% of the class will go into the Marine Corps. That will represent 25% of the second lieutenants produced for the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps has shrunk a little bit. So post 9/11, the Marine Corps got up to about 225,000 Marines. Today, they're at about 188,000. These numbers are significant. And what they will do is they will go into primarily what we call the unrestricted line warfare areas, the war fighters. So in the Navy, you could argue there's 5 and a new one coming on as a 6th service community. So driving ships, driving submarines, flying jets or airplanes, going out to be an explosive ordnance disposal officer, or being a Navy SEAL. And the new one that's coming on for fully physically qualified midshipmen is to go into information warfare as a cyber specialist. In the Marine Corps, it's kind of broken down into two categories, being a ground officer or being an air officer. So I just want to give you a snapshot of those communities here because this is going to be their future. So surface warfare, in a typical class of roughly around 1,000 graduates, 750 or so will go into the U.S. Navy, and about 200 of them will go into surface warfare. Submarine warfare, which means that they will go out and get a nuclear qualification before they join the submarine force, about 135, to include billets that are opened up to women now. And this year, we're putting 15 women into the submarine force, which is what we did last year. As we open up submarines for the right type of living conditions for women, those numbers will probably start to expand. One of the top selection for women is to get into that competitive category to go on submarines. Naval Aviation. Now, I'm going to break out another picture here that'll show the Marine Corps aviation, but this might surprise you. Out of a class of 1,000, 400 midshipmen that are getting commissioned as ensigns and second lieutenants will go into aviation. So pilot, naval flight officer on the Navy side and the Marine Corps side. So 40% of the class are going to go to aviation. Now, this surprises people sometimes because they keep hearing about drone warfare and we're not going to really need any more piloted airplanes. Don't buy into that. Okay? Maybe your great-grandchildren might be seeing that, but this generation, we have a real need for technical skills to be able to fly jet aircraft, to be able to fly anti-submarine warfare airplanes as in the P-8 Poseidon. And eventually, that same cadre of officers in the Navy will go back into the nuclear engineering side and command our nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. So this is important. Every once in a while, I like to point out that we actually produce more aviators in the Air Force Academy. They don't like to hear that, by the way. But it's true, primarily because I produce a little over 300 on the Navy side and about 100 Marine Corps aviators per year. Explosive ordnance disposal. This is a service community that a lot of you may not be all that familiar. We don't produce a huge amount, about 15 officers a year, but these are the officers that you saw in the movie The Hurt Locker. Okay, so they go out and can defuse bombs and combat situation. They go out and sweep our piers to make sure that they're clean and free and no explosives there. They're qualified to jump out of airplanes. They're qualified to drive ships. It's one of the most complicated communities in high demand. Very competitive to get into this. And by the way, this is open to women today. And of course, Navy SEAL. Not a large community. We produce, on average, about 30 officers per year. But here's the thing. Out of the officers that leave the Naval Academy that go to Coronado, California to take the basic underwater demolition school, or BUDS, we are over 90% successful in getting our midshipmen, our new ensigns, to wear the big gold trident. There is no program in the country that is even in that planet. The average success rate of those that go to BUDS is about 30%. 30%, 70% failure rate. We have over 90% success rate. So you can imagine that the SEAL community really likes the Naval Academy. And I will tell you, it's not just because of the athleticism that we have. It's not just because our men and women know how to win in the field of sports. It's because they have the mental tenacity to get through that program. Now, I'm not going to tell you if and when this program will be opened up to women. There's a lot of talk about that. But if it does, I predict that the first Naval Academy graduating class that will put women into the Special Operations Forces will come from your sons and daughters' class. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes. This year we have 36 slots for Navy SEAL. Information warfare. Last year, for the first time, we took fully physically qualified midshipmen and put them into this warfare area, and that will continue. This is incredibly popular and incredibly needed for our future. And then on the Marine Corps side, about 2/3 of all the Marines, somewhere between 250 and 270. This year we're going to produce 260 Marine second lieutenants out of the graduating class. They'll go into infantry or artillery. By the way, every Marine goes through the basic school in Quantico, every single, whether you're going to be a pilot or a ground pounder. Very competitive. we usually have more midshipmen that want to go in the Marine Corps than we have spots. And then Marine Corps Aviation. And I put this picture up of the F-35B, the vertical takeoff and landing variant, because the Marine Corps is actually ahead of the Air Force and the Navy in developing this special. This is the future of the Marine Corps Aviation arm. And in fact, it was in the news today that the Marine Corps and Great Britain have decided that their airplanes will fly off Britain's first venture back into aircraft carrier aviation in many, many years. Our F-35Bs are going to be flying off the Queen Elizabeth class ship here in some number of years here very soon. This was last year's service assignment. I just put this up here. I know it's a little bit of an eye chart. It pretty much says everything I just told you about the numbers. You'll see up there that we send some number of midshipmen to go into the surface force for nuclear. Those are the midshipmen that go get commissioned as an ensign, go to nuke power school, and then get assigned to aircraft carriers. And you can see the rest up there. So I put this picture up here because as I talked about seeking the highest levels of command, citizenship, and government, I wish I could put up a picture of all those great Naval Academy alumni that have done so much for our nation. This is just a snapshot from Chester Nimitz in the class of 1905 to Alan Shepard in 1945 to Sunita Williams and David Robinson in the class of 1987. They've done unbelievable things like becoming the President of the United States, a senator, first female four-star in the Navy, and Michelle Howard, class of 82. Sunita Williams is actually going back into space. And oh, by the way, she represents one of the 53 astronauts that have come from the Naval Academy, the most produced by any institution in the country. Yeah. So I ask you, where will your son and daughter fit in this lineup? It's very likely that 30 or 40 years from now, there will be a couple shots from the class of 2017 on this same picture board. It's rather remarkable. Somebody in that class is likely to become an astronaut and go to Mars. I mean, it's really remarkable some of the things that they're going to do. You know, over the course of the Naval Academy history, I mentioned Rhodes Scholars. We've produced 48, 24 senators and congressmen, a president, 2 Nobel Prize laureates. It's amazing. 73 Medal of Honor winners. So the list of what Naval Academy graduates do, and I'm not even going to talk about how many corporate executives there are from the Naval Academy. Some of the biggest corporate companies in America are run by Naval Academy graduates. 2 years from now, we're all going to be there together, and it will be one of the greatest days of your life. But as much as I want you to be excited about the future, I do want you to think about that special service assignment process and what that means for your son and daughter. I want to say thank you for trusting us here at the Naval Academy with the health, welfare, education, and growth of your son and daughter to serve our nation. It's a special relationship, and it's a special trust, and it's not lost on me. I like to be able to think I can look each and every one of you in the eye and say that we take care of your son and daughter from I-Day to graduation. And I'm not so sure every institution in this country can do that. So thank you for that. Thank you for being here this weekend. I know you're going to have a great weekend. And thank you for now being part, for the rest of your lives, of the Naval Academy family. Thank you all very, very much. I know a lot of you want to get to new meal formation. You can get up and leave. I won't be offended. I would like to take just a couple questions if you like, and we can go anywhere you want, okay? So I'll just take a couple, but I'd like to give it an opportunity in this forum. Anybody got a question? And I'm serious, I will take questions. Yes, all the way in the back. Just shout it out.
On the service selection, you showed a restricted line.
Yeah.
Tell a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so some midshipmen here, through the course of things that have happened, whether they be colorblind, whether they blew out a knee, they may not be commissionable into some of the unrestricted line communities, but yet they've still done all the work to graduate here. They've fulfilled all the mission areas, so we might put them in a restricted line community like Supply Corps, some elements of the Intel community, Civil Engineer Corps. Relatively small numbers, usually less than 50 per class, but that's what that speaks to. And somebody else, yes?
You mentioned intelligence.
Yes.
Now, are there other ways if they want to get into intelligence? What are the routes to do that?
Well, and it's interesting that you asked that. Intelligence is very popular right now. So right now, I usually only have 6 or 8 slots that they can compete for. And then within the restricted line community, there's some of that. If they don't get into intelligence as they pick one of their service selections, they can actually ask to cross over. And there are requests for that. But again, it's competitive. There are screening processes, so it's not just based on who graduates in what rank order. So that all gets screened, and there's a formula that goes into that. So they'll start to get into that here at the end of their summer this year. Okay, I'll take one more. Somebody. Come on, you guys are easy. Yes, right here in the front.
The slots that are available, I'm understanding, are based on what the needs the Marines and the Navy have.
Yes.
So then these students who come to you, you're looking at their portfolio for the entire 4 years in all categories of how, as you described, you develop them. So if they don't get that preference, where do they go?
So as the process plays out, the midshipmen are very well educated on all the opportunities. And as you point out, I do not make the slots. Those are given to us based on the needs of the Navy and the Marine Corps. I just have a basic contract to make 75% Navy, 25% Marine. There are a series of aptitude tests and screeners that educate the midshipmen and allow those communities to say, I want these 36 midshipmen to be a Navy SEAL. The SEAL community has to have a vote on that. The Marine Corps screens everybody that goes in the Marine Corps. We do the same thing for aviation, and we even do it for surface warfare. At the end of the whole process, we come pretty close to about 85% of every class gets their first choice. And when they think smartly about what's available to them, 96.5% first or second choice. So the process works very well. But again, not everybody can be a Navy SEAL. And you got to be able to do a few very specialized things. So just saying I want to be a Navy SEAL doesn't mean that we get to that number. They're very educated. So I'll just give you an example. When I was here, the last choice to do going into the Navy was to be a surface warfare officer. It's the opposite now. It's very popular. A lot of midshipmen want to go there, and they want to go there because they get to serve immediately, they get their surface warfare pin, and they feel like they're serving right out of the gate. A lot of the other programs, you've got to go to multiple schools. Aviation could be 2 years to get your pilot wings. Nuclear power school for the submarines is at least 1.5 years after sub school. So, and quite a few of our midshipmen will go to graduate program studies as well. So for those that are willing to take that longer road to go to those very specialized career paths, they're great fits. But for a lot of our midshipmen, they see serving on ships as a great fit. Not much. They'll move a little bit left or right, but not much. That's why I'm comfortable showing you the class of 2015. Well, listen, enjoy your day, enjoy your weekend, and really enjoy having you here.